The call came in at 4:47 a.m. Not the kind of call you want when you've got 340 acres of soybeans at 13% moisture and a weather window closing in 6 hours. Derek Hutchins stood in his kitchen in Brookings County, South Dakota, staring at his phone. The screen said Corey, his hired man, the one running the second combine, the one running the John Deere S790. "It's down again." 3 words. That's all Corey said. Derek didn't ask what broke this time. Didn't ask if Corey tried resetting it. Didn't ask if the error code was the same as last week or the week before that. He just asked where. Northeast 40. Same spot as Tuesday. Derek grabbed his keys. This was the 4th breakdown in 31 days. Not 4 seasons, not 4 years. 4 breakdowns in one harvest month on a combine that cost him $417,000 the previous spring. A 2022 John Deere S790 with every package, every sensor, every precision ag upgrade the dealer could sell him. It had 214 engine hours on it, and it had spent more time sitting still than cutting beans. Derek Hutchins wasn't some rookie operator who bought the wrong iron and blamed the brand. He'd run Deere equipment his entire adult life. His father ran green. His grandfather ran green. Their shop had a 4440 from 1979 that still fired on the first crank every April. Loyalty wasn't a marketing word in the Hutchins family. It was generational identity. But loyalty doesn't harvest soybeans, and it sure as hell doesn't pay a $90, $200 monthly combine payment when the machine won't stay running. Derek pulled into the field just after 5. The S790 sat crooked in the rows, header still down, engine cold. Corey was leaning against the rear tire with his arms crossed, the kind of posture that said he was done pretending this was fixable. "Hydraulic fault," Corey said. "Same error as before. I called the dealer. They said they'd send someone out by noon." Noon. Derek looked at the sky. Clear now. Front moving in by tomorrow afternoon. If they didn't get these beans off today, they'd sit for another week, maybe 2. Moisture would climb back up. Test weight would drop. Dockage would eat into the price per bushel. He did the math in his head without even trying. Every day of delay was costing him $4,000 in quality loss alone. "Did they say what's causing it?" Corey shook his head. "Same thing they said last time. Sensor issue, software conflict, should be covered under warranty." Derek stared at the combine, all 417,000 reasons he bought it, all the horsepower, all the automation, all the dealer confidence that this was the most reliable machine Deere had ever built. It had been a lemon from week 2. The first breakdown happened during wheat, mid-June. They were 70 acres into a 200-acre field when the feeder house stopped pulling, just quit. No warning, no error code at first. Derek climbed down, checked the chains, checked the belts, reset the system. Nothing. 20 minutes later, the screen finally flashed. Feeder house drive malfunction. Contact dealer. The dealer sent a tech out the next day. He spent 4 hours tracing wiring, swapping sensors, running diagnostics. He said it was a bad module. Ordered the part. It arrived 3 days later. Cost to Derek, $0 in parts. $11,000 in weather delay and contract penalties. The second breakdown was the thresher. Something in the rotor drive system. The combine would run for 40 minutes, then throw a fault and shut down. Restart it, run another 40 minutes, fault again. The dealer said it was a calibration problem. Sent a software update. Problem persisted. They replaced the entire rotor sensor array. That took 6 days because the parts had to come from Iowa. The third breakdown was the grain tank unload system. Auger wouldn't extend, wouldn't retract, stuck halfway out like a broken wing. Corey had to manually crank it back in with a socket wrench, while Derek called the dealer and tried not to lose his temper on a recorded line. And now this. Breakdown number 4. Hydraulic fault. Same error, same excuse. Derek pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. He'd started tracking every failure the day the feeder house quit. Dates, hours, costs, downtime. The S790 had been operational for 63% of the days he owned it. 63%. He'd bought a $400,000 machine that worked less than 2/3 of the time. The dealer couldn't explain it. The engineers couldn't fix it. And Derek Hutchins was about to do something no one in his family had done in 40 years. The service truck rolled in just before 11:30 a.m. Same tech as last time. Good guy. Competent. Not his fault the machine was a disaster. He ran the diagnostics, checked the codes, pulled up the service history on his tablet, and scrolled through 4 identical entries. "It's the same valve block issue," he said. "We replaced this once already, but it looks like the replacement part is failing too." Derek kept his voice level. "So what's the fix?" "I'll order another one. Should be here by Friday." "Friday's 4 days from now." The tech nodded. "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, man. I've escalated this to the district rep. They're aware." "Are they paying me for the beans I'm losing?" The tech didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew the answer. Derek stood there in the field, staring at a combine that cost more than his first house, and he felt something shift. Not anger, not frustration. Clarity. This wasn't a maintenance problem. This wasn't bad luck. This was the machine, and it wasn't going to get better. He climbed into his pickup and drove straight to the dealership. The John Deere dealer in Brookings had been the Hutchins family's equipment source for 3 decades. Derek's father bought his first new tractor there in 1991. Derek bought his first planter there in 2009. When Derek walked into the sales office that afternoon, the general manager saw him coming and stood up from his desk. "Derek, hey, I heard about the S790 we're working on. I want to trade it." The manager blinked. "Trade it? Yeah, I want it gone. I'll take a loss if I have to. I need a combine that works." The manager sat back down slowly. He pulled up Derek's account on his computer, clicked through some screens. His face didn't change, but his posture did. "You're 11 months into ownership. You've got $374,000 left on the note. I know what I owe. Derek, if we take that machine back now, you're looking at a $95,000 loss. Maybe more. That's before we even talk about financing a replacement." Derek leaned forward. "What's it cost me to keep running a combine that's down 4 days a week?" The manager didn't have an answer for that. They went back and forth for 20 minutes. The manager offered software updates, offered a loaner machine, offered to escalate to the regional service team. Derek said no to all of it. "I need something that runs. If Deere can't give me that, I'll find someone who can." The manager's expression hardened. Not angry, just careful. "You know switching brands is a big move. Parts compatibility, resale value. Your whole operation is set up for green iron." "My whole operation is set up to harvest crops," Derek said. "Right now I can't do that." He walked out. That night, Derek sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open and a legal pad covered in numbers. He wasn't an impulsive man. Didn't make emotional decisions. His father had taught him that equipment purchases were decade-long commitments. You didn't just swap brands because you had a bad year. But this wasn't a bad year. This was a bad machine, and the dealer wasn't fixing it. He started searching, not for John Deere alternatives, not for Case or New Holland. He wanted to see what else was out there, what he'd been ignoring because he'd never had a reason to look. He found a forum thread from a Canadian farmer running Massey Ferguson Ideal combines. The guy had logged 4,100 hours on an Ideal 9T with 0 unscheduled downtime. 0. Derek read the whole thread, then he read another one, then another. Massey Ferguson wasn't a brand he thought about. It wasn't a brand anyone in South Dakota talked about. It didn't have the dealer network Deere had. Didn't have the name recognition. But the performance reports were undeniable. He pulled up the specs on the Ideal 10T. 517 horsepower, 16,700-pound grain tank, dual helix rotor design, simple hydraulics, mechanical drive systems with electronic monitoring, not electronic control. And then he saw the price. $384,000 configured the way he needed it. $33,000 less than the S790. He stared at that number for a long time. The next morning, Derek Hutchins drove 2 hours south to a dealership no one in his county had ever bought from. The Massey Ferguson dealership sat just outside Sioux Falls, tucked back off Highway 29 in a gravel lot that didn't look like much. No massive showroom, no flashy banners, just a small building, a service shop, and a dozen pieces of red iron sitting in clean rows. Derek pulled in just after 9 a.m. A man in his 60s walked out of the office, jeans, work boots, Massey Ferguson hat that looked 10 years old. "Help you?" "I'm looking at combines," Derek said. The man nodded. "You're in the right place. I'm Ron. You farm around here?" "Brookings County, soybeans and corn." Ron's expression didn't change, but Derek saw the recognition. Brookings County was deer country, had been for decades. "What are you running now?" Derek hesitated, then said it. S790. Ron didn't react, didn't smirk, didn't make a sales pitch. He just nodded and said, "Come on, I'll show you what we've got." They walked toward a red Ideal 10T sitting near the back of the lot. It wasn't new, 680 hours on it, one owner, traded in for a larger model. But it was clean, well-maintained, no leaks, no worn paint around the service points. Ron opened the cab door. "Climb in, get a feel for it." Derek stepped up into the cab. The layout was different, simpler, fewer screens. The controls were mechanical toggles and lever-actuated systems, not touch interfaces. It felt dated, but it also felt solid. Ron leaned against the cab steps. "I'm not going to lie to you, this machine isn't as fancy as what you're used to. No automated this, no smart link that, but I'll tell you what it is." He paused. "Reliable." Derek looked at him. Ron continued. "I've sold 43 of these Ideals in the last 4 years. You know how many have come back with major failures?" Derek waited. "1, broken rotor belt. Operator ran over a steel fence post and didn't tell me until the thing grenaded. That's it. 1 failure. 43 machines." Derek climbed down from the cab. "What about parts?" "Got a full parts department. Anything I don't have in stock, I can get in 2 days, 3 at most." "Service?" "We run 3 techs, all factory trained. Average response time is 4 hours." Derek walked around the combine slowly, checked the undercarriage, checked the rotor housing, pulled the service panel, and looked at the hydraulic lines. Everything was accessible, logical, rebuildable. "What do you want for it?" Ron pulled a folded paper from his shirt pocket. "247, as is. I'll deliver it and spend a day with your operator getting him familiar with it." Derek did the math. He'd lose close to $90,000 trading the Deere. Financing the Massey would put him at $337,000 total debt. Still less than he owed on the S790 alone. "I need to think about it." Ron nodded. "Fair enough, you've got my number." Derek drove home. He didn't tell anyone what he was considering. Not his wife, not Corey, not his father, who'd have had an opinion that started with, "You're doing what?" and ended with a lecture about brand loyalty. He sat with it for 2 days. The S790 sat in the shop. The dealer still didn't have the part. The beans were still in the field. The weather was still coming. On the 3rd day, Derek called Ron. "I'll take it." Ron didn't sound surprised. "I'll have it ready by tomorrow. Bring your title and we'll handle the trade." Derek hung up and stared at his phone. He'd just done something no one in his family had done in 2 generations. He switched brands. The Massey Ferguson showed up on a Tuesday. By Thursday, every farmer in Brookings County knew about it. Corey saw it first. Derek had called him the night before and told him they were getting a different combine. Didn't say what, didn't explain why, just said, "Be ready to run it tomorrow." When the dealership truck pulled into the yard with a red Ideal 10T on the trailer, Corey walked out of the shop and stopped mid-step. "You bought a Massey?" Derek nodded. "Does your dad know?" "Not yet." Corey circled the machine slowly, looked at the cab, looked at the header hookup, looked at the tires. "It's used." "Yeah. How many hours?" 680. Corey chewed on that for a second. Then he climbed up into the cab and sat in the seat, flipped a few switches, checked the sight lines. He climbed back down. "When do we start?" They fired it up at 6:15 a.m. the next morning. The engine turned over clean, no hesitation, no sensor delays, just a straight mechanical start that sounded like every reliable machine Derek had ever run. Ron had spent the previous afternoon walking Corey through the controls. Feeder house engagement, header height, rotor speed, unload auger. Everything was manual priority with electronic feedback, not the other way around. Corey pulled it into the field and dropped the header. Derek followed in the grain cart, watching. The Ideal moved through the beans smooth and steady. No stuttering. No faults. The cab was quieter than the Deere. The unload system cycled faster. After 2 hours, Corey called on the radio. "How's it looking?" Derek checked the sample in the tank. "Clean. Minimal crackage. Good separation. Looks good. Keep going." Corey ran for 6 hours straight. No stops, no errors, no breakdowns. By the end of the day, they'd covered 140 acres. The S790's best day had been 92. Word spread fast. In farming communities, equipment decisions aren't private. Everyone knows what you're running. Everyone knows what you paid. And everyone has an opinion. By the weekend, 3 different neighbors had stopped by to see the Massey Ferguson. One of them, a guy named Kyle who ran 1,800 acres of corn, stood in Derek's yard with his arms crossed, staring at the ideal like it was a UFO. "You really ditched the Deere?" "Yeah." "Why?" Derek didn't sugarcoat it. "It was down more than it ran." Kyle nodded slowly. "I heard it was having issues. 4 breakdowns in a month." Kyle's expression shifted. Not disbelief, concern. He ran a Deere S780, same platform, same systems. "You think it's a lemon, or you think it's the model?" Derek didn't answer. He didn't need to. Kyle was already doing the math in his head. Another neighbor, older guy, 4th-generation farmer named Tom, walked around the Massey twice before he said anything. "I didn't know Massey even made combines anymore. They do." "Any good?" Derek gestured toward the field. "Go ask Corey." Tom walked out to where Corey was greasing zerks on the header. They talked for 10 minutes. When Tom came back, his face was different. "He says it hasn't thrown a single error." "That's right." Tom looked at Derek. "What'd the Deere dealer say when you traded it?" "Not much," Tom grunted. "I bet." 3 weeks later, the S790 sold at auction. The price told a story no one wanted to hear. The John Deere dealership listed the S790 in their fall consignment auction. Low hours, full service history, current model. On paper, it should have brought $340,000, maybe more. It sold for $287,000. Derek got the call from the dealership the day after the auction. The finance manager's voice was flat, professional, but Derek could hear the edge in it. "We netted out your trade. After auction fees and your remaining balance, you're clear. No deficiency." Derek had expected to owe another $30,000. The fact that he didn't told him everything. The market knew. Buyers weren't stupid. A 1-year-old S790 with 214 hours selling for $287,000 meant something was wrong with it. And when buyers know something's wrong, they bid accordingly. The dealership ate the loss. Derek didn't feel good about it. He didn't feel vindicated. He just felt tired. But the Massey kept running. By mid-October, the Ideal 10T had 340 hours on it. Not a single breakdown, not one error code, not one service call. Corey ran it 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. They finished soybeans, started corn. The machine handled both without adjustment issues, without calibration drift, without hydraulic faults. Derek kept a log, same way he'd logged the Deere's failures. Operational days, 47. Downtime, 0. Unscheduled service calls. He showed the log to his wife one night. She looked at it for a long time, then looked at him. "You made the right call." Derek didn't say anything. But yeah, he had. His father came by in late October. He didn't call first, just pulled into the yard in his pickup, climbed out, and walked straight toward the machine shed. Derek met him halfway. His father nodded toward the Ideal, sitting clean and fueled, ready for the next day. "So that's it, huh?" "Yeah." His father walked around it, didn't say anything for a full minute. Then, "How's it running?" "Good." "Better than the Deere?" Derek hesitated. Then, "A lot better." His father nodded, ran his hand along the fender. "I heard what happened. Heard the S790 was a mess." "It was." His father looked at him. "You do what you gotta do. Deere's a good brand, but a good brand doesn't mean every machine's good." Derek felt something release in his chest. His father clapped him on the shoulder. "Your grandfather would have switched too. He wasn't loyal to paint. He was loyal to what worked." By spring, 2 more farmers in Brookings County bought Massey Fergusons. The Deere dealer stopped returning their calls. Harvest ended in November. Derek and Corey pulled the Ideal into the shed, ran a full postseason service, and put it to bed. Total hours for the season, 512. Total breakdowns, 0. Derek sat in his office that night and ran the final numbers. The S790 had cost him $107,000 in direct losses. Downtime, weather delays, quality dockage, contract penalties. The Massey Ferguson saved him $34,000 in operational efficiency alone. In one season, the machine had justified the switch, but the bigger shift wasn't financial, it was psychological. Derek no longer wondered if his combine would start. He didn't carry his phone into the field expecting a breakdown call. He didn't brace himself every time the cab screen flickered. He just farmed, and that was worth more than any brand loyalty his family had ever carried. 3 months later, Derek got a call from Kyle, the neighbor who'd asked about the Massey back in September. Hey, you still running that ideal? Yeah, why? I'm thinking about trading my S780. It's starting to act like yours did. Derek didn't say I told you so. He just gave Kyle Ron's number. 2 weeks later, Kyle bought a Massey Ferguson Ideal 9T. Then another neighbor bought one. Then another. By spring planting, there were 4 red combines in Brookings County. The John Deere dealer noticed. Derek ran into the Deere sales manager at the co-op in April. The guy saw him, hesitated, then walked over. Heard you've been happy with the Massey. Derek nodded. Yeah, no complaints. The manager shifted his weight. Look, I know we didn't handle the S790 situation great. If you ever want to come back, we'd work with you. Derek didn't get angry, didn't gloat. He just said, I appreciate that, but I'm good where I'm at. The manager nodded and walked away. Derek never went back. 2 years later, the Ideal 10T had 1,891 hours on it. 0 breakdowns, 0 unscheduled service calls, 1 rotor belt replacement at 1,400 hours, routine maintenance, not a failure. Derek Hutchins still farmed the same 240 acres in Brookings County, still ran the same operation, still planted the same crops. But he didn't run green iron anymore, because loyalty isn't about paint, it's about performance, and the Massey Ferguson delivered every single day.